Hey everyone, today we're going to be looking at a photograph and how to transform it into an artistic painterly rendering using Luminar AI. Hello and welcome to Luminar Coffee Break. I'm your host, Angela Andrieux, and today we're going to be looking at a really beautiful photo of lavender fields and how to give it an artistic painted look. Let me show you what we've got going on. I'm starting with this beautiful photo, and this is my after image that I've already converted. I want to quickly show you the before, and this is what we're going to do today. So I'm going to right click on my image, go to adjustments, and revert this back to the original. And you can see that I did initially crop this in. So let's start with that. We'll go to our Composition AI tool, and we're going to refine this composition. I'm going to pull it in from the upper right corner down so that the tree is roughly on that rule of thirds, and then just move this around, maybe pull that up a tiny bit. And I think that makes for a much more pleasing composition. I want to say hello to Walter. So glad you're able to join me today. And if anybody watching has questions as we go through, please feel free to pop those into the chat pod, and I'll do my best to get those answered for you as we go along. If you're watching the recording, please post your questions in the comments below, and I'll make sure to take a look at those and get those answered for you as well. Hey, Nigel, glad you're able to join us. All right, so now that we've cropped our image and refined the composition, let's do a few corrective tonal adjustments to make it look a bit better. I'm going to start with Enhance AI and pull up my Accent AI, and that's going to open up those shadows, bring a little bit more definition to the clouds, pulls back on the highlights, just overall improves the image. Now I'm going to go down to some artistic tools in the creative section, and we're going to add mystical and glow. Now, normally I choose mystical or glow. It's not something I use both for, but when we're trying to make a very creative, artistic look, both of those tools can actually work really, really well together. So we'll start with mystical. I'm going to pull that amount slider up, and you can see this gives it kind of a dark glow. It's smoothing some of the details and just kind of gives it that very magical, mystical look, hence the name mystical. Now we can bring up those shadows a little bit more so we're not losing detail down here in the foreground. And I always like to go down to colorize and pull up that warmth. And that just changes the lighting a little bit and gives a little bit more warmth to the colors here in the foreground, which I really, really like. Now let's go down to glow. And I'm going to pull this amount slider up first, pretty high. And then we can audition the different types of glow. So it starts off with soft focus. Then we have glow, Orton effect, which I like, and the Orton effect soft. Now for this image, I think Orton effect soft works best. We can also go down to our advanced settings here, maybe pull back a little bit on the brightness, increase the softness a little bit, and adjust the contrast, maybe a little bit of additional contrast. And again, I like to pull up on that warmth. And you see how that just changes the overall feel of the image ever so slightly and just improves things. Now let's take a look here at our before and after. I like how this is coming along. I do want to do one more quick tonal correction. I'm going to go up to my light tool, and I'm going to pull down on those highlights a little bit more. You'll see how that's bringing out more definition in the clouds. And I'm also going to bring up the shadows a tiny bit and maybe bring up the overall exposure just a little bit. Okay, so now that we've done that, now we can get really creative and add some textures. So I'm going to go up to the local masking tool, choose the add button, and click texture. And I'm going to go into my texture selection menu. Right now, I have a collection of textures that I downloaded, loaded up. You can find tons of free textures on the internet. And I also encourage you to make your own. So anytime you see a neat texture out in the wild, out around your city, in your neighborhood, take a quick picture. They're really great for using in your composites. So I'm using one of these found textures, and I'm going to go with this one right here. And we're going to see that it goes ahead and overlays the image. So I'm going to click out of that menu, pull my opacity up to 100. Now because this is a JPEG, we cannot see through this image. If it was a PNG with transparency, you might see some of your image come through. To go ahead and fix this, we're going to go down to our advanced settings and use a blend mode. And I like to just move my mouse over these different blend modes to see which one affects the image in a pleasing way. So as I go down the list here, you can see what they do. Now I'm kind of torn between overlay, which looks nice, or multiply. I think multiply is the way to go here. I like the texture that it's adding, but it adds a little bit too much yellow in my opinion, so I'm going to back off that saturation. And we can also adjust the hue. And this is going to change how that texture is applying to our photo. And I actually like to bring out just a little bit more of that lavender. So right about there, I think is looking really, really nice. We can also brighten this up, bring back a little bit more of that image, and that's looking great. Now, as I look at this image, we're going to kind of build on it. And I think that there's a little bit too much detail and definition in the flowers in the foreground. A great way to kind of mute that is to go to Add, Basic, and we're going to use a gradient mask and then draw it from the bottom, pull that up. Everything that has the red overlay will be affected. Everything that doesn't have the red overlay will be protected. So there we go. And now I'm going to grab my Structure AI and pull that down to the left, and you'll see how that's muting that detail and really kind of intensifying that painted look. So there we go. I'm going to go ahead and bring that down. And then the final thing I want to do is we can see our texture really defined in the sky. It's a little bit less so in the foreground. So I want to add my texture again, just to make this texture down here a little bit more prominent. So I'm going to go up to Add, Texture, and then I'm going to go into my texture selection menu, add that same texture once more. And now we're going to use our masking tools once again. We're going to go into our gradient mask, pull that up from the bottom, give that a nice smooth transition there, right at the line of the fields, and then go into our advanced settings and again, take a look at these blend modes and see which one works best for this image. In this case, I like overlay. I think that works well. Again, I'm going to pull that saturation down because I really don't want that texture to change the color. And there we have it. I'm also going to back off that opacity a little bit more right about there. I love how this image turns out, and it really does. Thanks so much for joining us. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. It's a lot of fun to do things like this with your images, and it especially works well when you have an image that maybe you didn't nail the focus, maybe it just lacks a little extra something, to take it and get creative with that photo and turn it into something a little bit different. I love doing this, and I use a lot of different apps to make it happen, but it's great that I can do this particular process in Luminar AI. Really saves me from having to bounce around to other programs. Let's take a quick look here at our overall before and our after. It's a huge transformation, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. I want to wish you guys a wonderful rest of the day. I hope you had some fun here today, and again, if you have questions, pop those in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, make sure you give us a thumbs up here on YouTube, and we'll see you at the next coffee break. Bye, everybody.